Hey everyone, Haley here with a community college Q&A for you. You asked, I'm answering, so buckle in because it's gonna be a long ride. Some of the questions do have overlap with like the UC questions. I guess you could consider them transfer questions, so just so you're aware of that. Don't come at me if you're like, why are you answering this question about UC? Anyway, so first question, how much harder are UC classes than CC classes? I think this really is going to depend on a lot of factors. One, the class, like the type of class that it is, to the professor, because there can be variation even within the CC system with the rigor of the classes. Generally, the classes at UC are harder because of the fact that when you're at the UC level, you're going to be working at the upper division level. You're not going to be working at the lower division, i.e. general education level anymore. So this is most likely stuff that you haven't seen before. It's delving into topics and at a depth that you haven't really been exposed to before. Next question, if you have been in community college for longer than 2 years, are your chances of getting into a UC harder? The answer is no. The number of years that you spend at community college doesn't matter. What does matter is completing the classes that you need to be considered an eligible applicant. So that's going to be your IGETC and all of your prerequisite courses. It doesn't matter how long you take at UC. It doesn't matter if you do it in 1 year, 3 years, 10 years. That has no bearing on your acceptance. 3, did you consider transferring out of state to NYU, for example? Is it harder to do so from a California community college? Personally, I didn't consider transferring out of state. I knew I either wanted to go to UC Berkeley or UCLA, and that was where I had my mindset. Also, going to school out of state is extremely expensive, so that was really not something that I was interested. I was trying to minimize my debt as much as I could, and I think that I managed to do that pretty well, given my situation. The second part of the question, is it harder to transfer out of state if you're coming from California? Probably, because there's no guarantee that the classes that you take at community college are going to have any equivalent course at the college out of state, whereas if you stick with the CSU or if you stick with the UC, there are literal articulation agreements saying that if you follow this course sequence, you will transfer in as a junior and you will have all the credits that you need. There's no guarantee for that for private colleges or out-of-state colleges. Please note that some out-of-state schools do have agreements with California community colleges, but my guess is they would be far and few between. It's not very common. And my cat is really interested in coming up here right now. Are you serious? This has come up a lot lately, which is, did you do internships in community college? Did you look for internships in community college? So the answer is I did look. Honestly, there weren't that many, and the ones that I applied to I didn't personally get, but I'm happy with the way things turned out because I don't think that would have been the best situation for me. I don't think it's very common for community college students to do internships. I could be wrong about that, just based off my experience going to community college for 3 years and knowing quite a bit of students at community college. No one did an internship. So, it really just depends, once again. Next question, how is community college different than high school? Was the rigor similar to AP courses? For the first part, I feel like community college is really different in high school. I mean, in high school, someone is pretty much on your back, breathing down your neck 24/7, holding your hand throughout the whole thing. And community college is not like that. You're really on your own. If you don't show up to class, if you don't do your homework, if you fail tests, no one's gonna care. No one's gonna care except you. Your teachers most likely won't approach you and be like, hey, you're doing really poorly, or hey, you're missing class. It's all on you. The onus is all on you to do what you need to do to graduate, to transfer, to get your degree. In regards to the second part of the question, was the rigor similar to AP courses? I never took any AP courses in high school, so I really can't speak to that. Sorry. Okay, so this question, I'm not sure if this is talking about community college or UC level. It says, how do you register for classes? Everyone says it's free. How can you figure out what to take and sign up before a class fills? Well, first of all, you need to apply to the community college. If we're talking about community college, you need to go to orientation. You'll be required to sit down with a counselor, and from there you can kind of get an idea of what you need to take. Once again, I have a lot of videos on this topic, planning your education and your time at CC. This playlist is going to be really helpful. Check it out. It goes into a lot more detail. Once again, than I can here. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of it because it is very long and complicated, but you're going to start with your basic things. Follow I Getsy, follow assist. If you have no clue what that means, this playlist is going to be your best friend. Another question, how were your grades and GPA like at community college? What is usually required to be able to transfer from a CC to a decent uni? At community college, I don't remember the exact number, but my GPA was around 3.8. I got almost straight A's. I had like 1 or 2 or 3 B's and I had 1 C. So it was pretty high. I was a pretty academically minded person, and I still am, so my grade point average since graduating high school has always been high. What is usually required to be able to transfer from a CC to a decent uni? That, once again, that's gonna depend on where you go. So I would really encourage you to do your due diligence, do some research, and figure out what the school that you want to apply to and to transfer to requires for transfer students. It's gonna vary by school. There are some of the same general requirements for UC schools, and yeah, that information can be found on the University of California admissions website. I've also done several videos that I can link here that kind of shed more light on that topic in a lot more detail than I could go into right now. I got a lot of questions about this, so I'm gonna use this one question as the catch-all. It says, how much does finishing major prep in spring before transfer affect your acceptance? I have 1 I still need to finish and it's concerning me. To the best of your ability, you should finish all the classes if they're available to you at the CC level. If there is a class that is required for the major, but it's not offered at your CC or your school's sister school, or it's only offered at the university level, then that's not going to be held against you. But if it is available at your CC, you should try to take it because it just shows that you're really dedicated to getting things out of the way in terms of classes. Also, the classes that you take related to your major at the CC level are a direct indication of how you will perform in the UC. So you need to show the admissions committee that you're doing well in those classes and that you actually care about fulfilling everything that you can while it's available to you. This question says, do you think community college prepared you well for UCLA academically? I feel it's a tough question. If I'm being 100% honest, I think that I was prepared well for UCLA because I went to a private high school and it was very academically rigorous, and honestly, a lot of the classes at UCLA reminded me of the classes in my high school. But once again, I don't want to make a generalization because there were a lot of classes at CC that really pushed me, that related to my major. The one that comes to my head is Psych 2. It was incredibly rigorous. Only 3 people got A's in the class, and I was one of them. It was a class of 30. It was so hard. We had to do our own independent research project. You could partner up or you could do it individually. I did it individually. The exams were difficult. The assignments were difficult. The labs were difficult. And my cat is crying. So yeah, to be completely honest, I feel like my private school education is really what set me up to do well at UCLA, but I think if you really push yourself at the community college level and you ask your professors for assistance when you need it, and you really take your studies seriously, that can prepare you to move on to a university level. The next question I have is, can you explain how to decide on what majors to apply for at each UC? I think this is really going to be dependent on your major. If you have, for example, I'm just going to use linguistics because it's what I know. There wasn't necessarily a linguistics major at every single UC that I applied to, but the closest thing that there was, I would apply to it. For example, at UC Berkeley, there was a straight-up linguistics major. At UCLA, there was a linguistics major. There was a applied linguistics major. I ended up choosing applied linguistics because it aligned with the courses that I had taken so far, and it would be the quickest way while still staying in the field that I wanted to study. If you're kind of someone who's like business, for example, but UCLA only offers a business econ, well, I think it's pretty obvious that that's probably what you should apply to. But yeah, you're gonna have to once again really do some research about what the major entails, what the degree entails at each school, because the linguistics major at UC Berkeley is not going to be the same as the linguistics major at UCLA, and that's not going to be the same as the linguistics major at UC Davis. They all have their own course sequences. Even though they do accept generally the same general education requirements, the degree requirements for the bachelor's degree are probably going to differ. the last question. This person is asking, do you recommend that I try to join a club of some sort to have a better chance of getting into UCLA specifically, but I think this could apply to any UC. Here is what I say to that. I really want you guys to understand that having an extracurricular or even multiple extracurriculars does not make you a shoo-in for any school, because the application process is holistic. Please remember that when you're applying. What that means is every component of your application is given equal weight when you are admitted into the school. Do not underestimate the power of your essays. Those can have a lot of influence on the perception of you as an applicant. Of course, extracurriculars are great. They will never hurt you. They will only help you, but you don't necessarily need to do extracurriculars to get into a UC. I did not do any extracurriculars, and I got into all the schools that I applied to. That being said, I did work full time. So what I want to say about being a more attractive, well-rounded, standout applicant is that don't make school your only thing on your application. Make sure that there is at least one other thing that shows some sort of passion and shows some sort of engagement outside of the classroom, whether that is an extracurricular, whether that is volunteering, or whether that is a job, or maybe you're like a caretaker of someone in your family. It doesn't matter. But if you go into the application process, even if you have a 4.0 and that's it, you don't have any extracurriculars, you don't have a job, you don't have anything that really makes you stand out, most likely, I mean, I can't say for certain, but you are not going to be an attractive applicant because you're one of literally, guys, 100,000 applicants. Every year, the UC system has a record number of applicants. This year, it was like 130,000 applicants or something like that. If you're one of 130,000, the 4.0 GPA ain't gonna cut it alone, okay? There has to be the 4.0 GPA in addition to something. Now, let me backtrack. You don't have to have a 4.0 GPA. That's another thing you need to understand. But you need to present yourself as someone who's well-rounded and worldly. I talk about this a lot more in this video that I'm gonna link. Cindy, I think it is. I think you would really benefit from watching this video. I talk about this in a lot of detail. Once again, more detail that I could go into in this video. Alright everyone, thank you for tuning into my community college Q&A. Any questions that you may have thought of over the course of watching this video, leave them down below. If you have requests, leave them down below. Please request only things that I haven't covered so far, because I do have a lot of videos on my channel that I would encourage you to check out. There are some things that I have coming up in the future, but if there's something that you don't already see in my channel that you would like me to consider talking about, leave it down below and I will take a look at your request. Thank you so much for watching. If you feel that this content benefited you, if you haven't already subscribed, please do so. If you benefited from the content, if you feel like sharing it with a friend, I would encourage you to do that as well. I would appreciate it. Give it a like, give it a thumbs up, whatever the kids say these days. And I'll see you next Saturday at 3 p.m. Bye!